Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. My name is Emery Wolf, and joining me...
Sorry. I thought you were going to do welcome back to just two, and I had the two camera guys.
It's like we recorded a show yesterday, and you missed it.
Yeah. I'll just let you roll with it, and then I'll pop in when I'm supposed to.
My name's Emery Wolf. Joining me is Matt Howard. No, it's Nick Lamb, everybody. And this is just two camera guys. There you go. We got a fun little show here today, a bit of a mishmash of a bunch of stuff, but it is all around one event. So our first interview here is with a lady by the name of Angela Hodel. She is the owner of Imagine Events here in Regina, and she runs the most incredible bridal show. I watch Bill. Well, I watch Bill and Ted's lately, and I want to be like the most excellent bridal show.
Yeah.
Maybe they can rebrand in a year or two. I'm not even going to tell her that.
What's the new one or the old one?
Oh, yeah, like the new one.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, most excellent. Anyways, Angela is joining us tonight. Hello, Angela.
How are you guys doing?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
Oh, no problems. Everything's going good.
That's good. I guess probably the first thing we need you to do is give us like the lowdown of the most incredible bridal show. What are we going to see? What should people expect?
Yeah, it's a really cool event. It's got, a little bit of everything for everyone. So it's on Sunday, October 23rd at the Conexus Arts Center in Regina. And there's lots of great stuff going on there. So we've got about 100 vendors there that all have to do with the wedding industry in general. So we have this huge trade show that's going to be going from noon until 4 p.m. So there's lots of great stuff to do there. People can visit with vendors, get really great ideas for planning their wedding. In addition to that, we have over $15,000 worth of grand prize draws. So couples can go in there, brides and grooms can be entered to win a variety of different prizes. We also have a grand prize that's a honeymoon that's sponsored by Vision Travel, so that they can go on a all-inclusive vacation. So that's super exciting. And then we also, of course, we have a fashion show that starts at 4 p.m. where people can go and watch some of the, newest and trendiest dresses and tuxes and all that good stuff for ideas for their upcoming wedding.
Oh, that's kind of fun. What is the newest and trendiest stuff?
There's so much stuff, I'm not a fashion expert by any means, but, there's lots of great trends that are, happening with wedding dresses, that type of thing in the wedding industry in general. We're seeing a lot of more smaller, intimate weddings. We're seeing a lot of dried florals, circular wreaths, circular arches, those types of things, lots of outdoor weddings. So lots of fun trends that are certainly here to stay for a while.
Do you think there's something different that happens in Saskatchewan than the rest of Canada or the rest of North America?
It's actually funny. I think I don't know why, but I just think Saskatchewan and the prairies are behind on all the trends. So it's so funny because we'll see a huge trend hit places Toronto and that kind of stuff. And then the following year, it's super popular in the prairies. I don't know why, but that's just a thing. So, I mean, whatever we see happening this year in Toronto and those types of places, that will happen. That will be trends in the prairies the following year. So
that's a good thing, though. It gives you guys, everyone in the industry, time to actually prepare for it, right?
Yeah, I feel like places like Toronto and Vancouver, they do all the trendy things first, and then Saskatchewan's yes, that's awesome, and then we do it.
Yeah. So Nick and I were discussing before the show, both of us, I'm not going to say we got our start in the wedding industry, but we both ran different businesses, and those businesses started essentially in the wedding industry. So why is the Incredible Bridal Show maybe a good starting point for photographers coming into the industry? Or maybe why would someone stay in that industry and continue this, and why is the show good for them?
Well, I think it's really great for people who are just starting out their businesses because it's a great advertising avenue, right? So, I mean, yes, social media is a great way to advertise to people, but I think what's especially unique about the bridal shows and wedding shows that happen throughout Saskatchewan is that you are advertising directly to your market. And they're face to face with you, right? You're not like sending out a blanket email to people hoping they're going to read it and reply and go, oh, I like this person, right? They get to come through, and I mean, yes, your competitors are going to be there, but brides and grooms are going to hire based on whose work they like, and they're buying into a person as well, right? Specifically for companies like photographers and wedding planners, even DJs, they're going to be spending a lot of time with that person on their special day. So they want to make sure that they really jive with them on their personality and that type of thing. So it's just a really great avenue for people to be able to market directly to their target market and people that are actually there to see them, right? It's not like you're just advertising to the masses hoping that someone likes your photography. People are coming to that show and looking at your work and actually physically interacting with you. So it's a really great way for you to interact with couples to see if they're going to be a right fit for you, and then hopefully get some bookings out of it. And,
that's how Emery didn't make it. It's the two things: one, they saw his work, and then two, they talked with him, and it was just
they were like, no, not this.
It's downhill from the start.
Do you know, actually, Nick, it's funny you say that because my experience was actually the opposite. So there were some shows like this going on back in the day when I did it, and I had it mandatory that we meet. Like, I would not shoot your wedding unless we met. And like, there was people who like thought it was weird. And I'm like, look, you need to be comfortable with me. I'm going to be in your face for this like important day for you.
Yeah.
And you need to be comfortable with me. So like, you need to meet me. You need to have sort of somewhat of a relationship with me in order for this to work. And yeah, back in 2006, that was a pretty strange concept.
Yeah, well, and the thing, I don't think a lot of couples look at it like that, but coming from like a wedding professional's point of view, if I sit down with a couple and I'm going to help them plan their entire wedding, I always look at it as I have a very big and bubbly personality, right? So if I sit down with a couple who's very meek and timid and quiet, I might not necessarily be the wedding professional that they need. Like maybe they also need someone who's a little bit more meek and quiet, right? So I think your personality really has to mesh well with your clients in order for you both to have a great experience.
Yeah, for sure. You've been doing this for a while now,
yeah.
to say the least. Why, like, what's your commitment to this industry? Why do you stay? What keeps you working in the wedding industry?
I just absolutely love weddings. I guess like it's a weird thing to say, but I'm like a hopeless romantic. I like cry at everybody's wedding. I watch them walk down the aisle, and I like it's like I get to like relive every moment like through my couples. I know that sounds absolutely strange, but I personally love weddings. I love everybody's love story. They're all unique. So I don't know. It's just like I don't know. I like being a part of someone's like special day. Even if you're just playing, a role in the background and you're literally just like picking up dirty plates at the end of the night, you still get to help. And I think that's really special for people to be able to assist them, with the best day of their life, essentially.
Is there, like, obviously you're quite passionate about this. And over the years, I'm sure you've seen, photographers, videographers like Nick and myself come and go. And is there something you've seen in people that makes them stay, or is it always kind of a hard industry with that turnover?
So the thing is with weddings is that they're always on weekends, and it is a hard, it's a hard industry. So I feel like you have to be really passionate about it, about the industry itself, because a lot of people will come into the industry for a couple of years and then, lifestyle might change, you know, like they might, for example, maybe they come in and they're single and then they get married and they have children or whatever, right? Or maybe they have a full-time day job and that changes. And so as people go through stages of their own lives, their priorities change, right? And when you have young children, you know, people's weekends become more valuable to them, you know, specifically if they have that full-time day job. You know, if you're just, say, doing photography or DJing on the side, that type of thing. So I think I honestly do think that to be in the wedding industry, you have to have a very special type of personality because one, it's super stressful, regardless of what type of vendor you are, because it's a high stress situation all the time because everybody wants everything to be perfect. And then on top of that, right, it takes a special type of person to be really dedicated to it for a long period of time.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I was thinking, going back to like sort of trends, I guess. So say I'm a photographer or a videographer at this event. Is there something maybe I should be aware of, either trend wise, or is there something I could be doing at the event itself to encourage or at least get clients more involved with me and have them actually thinking about hiring me?
Like, as you mean, like as a photographer for their event?
Yeah.
I think it would be just being like really open-minded in regards to what your client wants, what their wants and needs are. You know, many years ago, you know, when we're taking a look at photographers, there's a very set, like, these are what we capture as far as their ceremony. And then there's all these posed pictures and that type of thing. And I think that's kind of, you know, a thing of the past. You're always going to have, of course, like posed pictures with your family and those types of things. But I think people are really looking for more of a journalistic style. And I think the other thing is that we really see is video is really taking over, right? So while pictures are absolutely fabulous, I think nowadays we see more people leaning into wanting to have video, or maybe not choosing necessarily video over photography, but they go hand in hand now. And I think people want both. So I think it's always wise for photography or videography companies to maybe look at combining both and seeing if they can offer both those services, right? Regardless of whether they do it or they partner with someone and they offer like combined packages, because the trend that I see is that most people are wanting both as part of their, and it's easier for them to hire one company that does both really well, as opposed to hire one company and then another company to do something else. So I think it's something to really look into for most photographers, is if they have an option to have like an additional, you know, video package or photo package based on what they offer.
That's a good idea, I think, how you said to partner if you're a videographer or a photographer, because from our perspective, we don't even think of that kind of stuff. We just think, well, I do video.
Yeah.
But from the client's perspective, to be able to get both at the same time, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I've said it to you, Nick. I know I've said it before, and this probably like really controversial, but for some reason, photographers haven't transferred over to video quite as well. And so I think partnering is probably a really great idea for that. It's the perfect solution to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love the nice thing about weddings are, for to start or to be an experienced professional in, is that there's a lot of different budgets out there. Like there's a budget for the person that's just starting, and there's a budget for the person that's going to get them like a world-class product. So it's really good for everybody.
Absolutely. And when we look at it for all wedding vendors, I know lots of wedding vendors really, really worry about competition that way. And I always say, I don't think you necessarily need to worry about competition, because there are photographers out there that charge $500 to capture your wedding day that just kind of do it as a hobby, regardless of whether they're just starting out or they're a seasoned professional, but just do it on the side for fun. And then there's photographers out there that are charging $3, $4, $5,000, right, to photograph your whole day. And both are equally fabulous. It's just the wedding photographer that charges like $3 or $4,000 to photograph a wedding day, and the photographer that charges $500 are not going to be marketing to the same client. So they really don't have to worry about that photographer that's coming in and charging $500, because the person who's going to hire that photographer is not going to be hiring them, right? So it's two very, very different clients. So I think there's definitely room and space for photographers and just wedding vendors in all budgets.
Yeah, for sure. I always looked at that too as like people would ask me about it and I'd be like, look, what you're really buying is experience. And like, so when you buy someone who's like $3,000, they're going to know what to do in any situation that can possibly come up. Whereas now I could be wrong in this, but someone charging 500 might be starting out. That's what I actually charged when I started out. And I was like, this is not a good idea, but it's what I did. And yeah, like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have that experience. And then the more experience I got, the more comfortable I got, the more I started charging more because I was like, well, I'm worth that much.
Absolutely. And I think it just depends on what couples are looking for, right? If you're working with a very modest budget, maybe you're just looking for someone who's an amateur photographer, and that's totally okay because you still deserve, beautiful pictures of your wedding day, but it's not in your budget to hire someone who's $3,000, and that's okay too.
Yeah. In the whole scheme of the event and what people hire and get for an event, how does like photography and videography rank? Like, is it just below the dress or?
Nice.
Oh, it's probably one of the top things people book. Like, so, other than like the dress and the venue and that type of thing, they're right below that, because I always tell people that those are the things that they don't want to skimp on, because at the end of the day, all you have is like your memories, of course, and then your photos and your videos. So those are the things that you want to spend good quality money on. And then everything else, work through your budget and figure out what's most important to you. If food is really, really important, then you spend a bulk of your money on food. And if you don't care about, having a great dance, then you don't spend as much money on that. Or maybe you don't care about flowers and you don't spend as much money on that, right? Or maybe you don't even need a wedding planner. Maybe you don't spend any money on that and your auntie does it. And that's okay too. It's just a matter of personal preference for the clients, right? So, but I would say that probably photo and video is very, very high up there on the first hire list after they've kind of like booked the date and the venue.
Well, even for like our industry as well, like I said, Nick and I sort of started our businesses on that. And like when you go out and even like just Google photographers Regina, almost 90% of them will have a portfolio specifically for weddings as well. So I guess, that sort of demand is matching what people are seeing and ways to make money. So I was kind of finding that a little bit interesting as well, like how important it is to us for us to be employed essentially, right?
Yeah, it's one of the things, when we're looking at someone's wedding, there's always vendors that you don't necessarily have to have based on, what you want, right? Like maybe you don't want a cake and maybe you don't want flowers and I don't know, maybe you don't want a DJ because you're not going to dance at all. But I think like photographers specifically, I mean, some people don't hire a videographer, but photographers is something that like everyone hires, right? Everybody wants to capture the day. So photography is definitely one of those things that nobody ever decides that they're not going to need.
You also run Imagine events here in town, so it's kind of a double threat for you, I think. But like switching from the sort of wedding thing to like events again, that's another avenue like where a lot of photographers see it. And honestly, it was like almost like how I say broke out of the wedding industry and started doing more event stuff for corporations and stuff like that. So do you see a connection and that transfer over a lot of the times or?
Yeah, so I mean, like our company does a lot of work with different types of, corporate events. And I think most vendors that would classify themselves as a wedding vendor also do a lot of corporate events. Just depends on the type of corporate event, right? So, I mean, if they're having a conference, they might hire, a sound tech who also happens to be a DJ to manage their, sound and music for their event or their Christmas party. And it's the same thing with event planning, is that we will also do Christmas parties and even things like fundraisers, right? For like nonprofits, they still use a lot of the same services because they need a photographer to capture their corporate event, or maybe they're having like a big awards ceremony or something like that for their organization. And again, they're going to be using the services of a videographer or of a photographer as well. So a lot of those vendors that would be involved in the wedding industry would also be, involved in the corporate industry as well.
Nick, I was looking at you. I thought you were going to ask a question. We're going to talk to a couple photographers who are also joining the event. But if you're doing this, you're doing your wedding, what would you be looking for? Like, what are your things when you're looking at photographers and videographers?
I think for me, like personally, if like I would be looking at their style, like their style is number one. I want to make sure that I like their style of photos. And I think it's really important to like not just look at like the random photos on their website that they post, because those are always going to be their best of their best photos, right? But I love seeing a lot of photos of maybe the same person's wedding, right? So when I go to a photographer, I'm like, would you be able to show me like just a gallery of one person's entire wedding? Because I want to see like what the overall feel and look of someone's entire wedding is. And everybody's style is a little bit different, not just in how they pose people, but their editing style, right? So, you know, one photographer might shoot like really dark and moody kind of pictures, and someone else is really light and airy. So I think for me, style would be number one. And then the second thing would be their personality, because I got to jive with them, right? And if I don't like their personality, it's going to show on your wedding day, right? If they make you feel weird and awkward, then in all your pictures, you're probably going to look weird and awkward. So I would highly make sure, you know, that you like their personality. And then, of course, third thing most people always think of is price, right? Obviously, you want to make sure that they're going to be within your budget and you're going to be able to afford their services.
Yeah, for sure. So just thinking about that style, what would actually be your style? How would you describe that look?
I think for me personally, so I like really bright, vibrant pictures. So I would be looking for things that are probably, I don't even know the way to describe it, almost like over contrast. Like I really, really love that really sharp, bright kind of look. Bright, I guess not really like deep and moody, but like really sharp and crisp and colorful. Whereas I know other people like really love this like kind of like light, airy, almost like subdued mellow look, but that's not me at all. But I like the really bright and poppy kind of pictures, so that's what I would be looking for.
Me too.
Me too. That is basically what I do: high contrast and oversaturated, except with like pictures of a lake or something. Anyways, out of all the people you have that work with you, who is the one who is like the most opposite, and why are they the most opposite?
Like as far as like vendors go? No.
Like your own crew. Let's have some fun with them. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of my staff like loves doing like children's parties and that type of thing, and that's completely opposite of what I like to do. So I mean, I don't like doing tons of like little kiddie birthday things, that type of thing. That is not my thing at all. So I think like each of my staff, they all kind of have their own niche and stuff that they like to do. But I mean, like me personally, I love doing weddings and like nonprofit fundraisers, that type of thing. But you know, I would probably say doing like those small children's parties with lots of balloons and screaming excited children are probably the least favorite thing for me.
But it's still an event. It's all connected and
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like I said, we're going to talk to some of the other photographers who are joining you, just a couple of them. I think there's 5 in total that are going to be there, or is that just what's on the website?
Yep. There's 5 in total currently. Yep.
Okay. And I think 1 video service thing.
Yeah, currently we're still taking applications in for vendors, so we might have a few more, but that's currently what we have. Yeah.
Yeah, and if somebody wants to do that, they can basically just go straight to the website and sort that out.
Absolutely, yeah. If they contact us directly on the website, we can make sure that we get them all the information that they're going to need.
I'm trying to think what the website is. mostincrediblebridalshow.com, I believe.
That's correct. Yeah, you got it.
Cool. Well, thanks again for joining us. And yeah, good luck with everything.
Okay, thanks so much. Have a good evening.
You too.
We'll
Bye.
see ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, let's get into it. First off, thanks for joining us, Nicole. You know, kind of the first thing I think we need to get to establish is sort of what is your business? What do you do? How'd you get into it?
Okay, so my business name is Flaunt Photography. I am a wedding and lifestyle portrait photographer. I've been doing it professionally for the last 5 years, and but I've been doing photography for the last 9 years. So I actually kind of stumbled into the wedding and the portraiture side because that was never my intention. So
how did you stumble into that?
Just having people reach out and ask me to shoot stuff for them. And I was like, well, I'm not really a people photographer. I used to do more like fine art, landscape type stuff. And it was actually my husband that kind of pushed me into it. He's like, just do it to see if you like it. And if you don't, then you don't have to continue. But if you do, then, it'll be good for you to practice. And so that's kind of what happened.
Is it your full-time gig now?
It is, yeah.
Nice. Kind of thinking about the wedding industry, what we're actually talking about has been the most incredible bridal show. Is this the first time you've gone, or have you been doing it year over year?
This will be my 4th year, I think, doing the most incredible bridal show.
Okay. What keeps you going back?
Well, I like meeting with the other vendors that are there. I know a lot of vendors do it to meet the brides, but I think there's also a lot to be had meeting the other vendors and making those connections. So that has a lot to do with it for me. And then usually I go in, for instance, this year I'm going in and I'm already 50% booked for next year. So it's just making connections with not necessarily brides that I'm going to be booking, but maybe people that are part of their entourage, like their bridal crew, and just making that impression on them for maybe later down the road.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually interesting. That is something we did not talk about, but it actually is a big part of it, right? You're working with all these different people all the time. So sort of building, establishing those relationships are good. And it probably sells more photos for you too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's good because for instance, if a bride reaches out to a rental company first, and I've talked to that rental company and I've done work with them, and then the bride says, well, who would you recommend for a photographer? Then they know who I am. They worked with me. They know what kind of person I am. They're more likely to recommend me as opposed to someone maybe that they've never actually met in person. So yeah, I think those connections are really valuable.
It's interesting. So when we wrote down sort of what we called our rapid fire questions, one of the questions we wrote down was this concept of a ratio. So how much do you think you get hired based on personality or relationship sort of things? And how much do you think you get hired over your portfolio?
Oh, that's a good question. I think now it really is 50-50 for me. I used to, when someone would inquire with me, so they'd see my portfolio on my website, they would inquire with me, I would just send them my price list. And I maybe get 1 out of 10 people that would want to meet with me. And then from there, if they met with me, they would always book. Now, I no longer do that. What I do is when they inquire, I tell them I want to meet with them in person right off the bat. I just say, I do customized stuff for my couples. So the best way that I can know what you want is to actually sit down and talk with you. And that's what I do. So I've been doing that for the last 9 months. And I think my closing rate right now is 80-90%. So I think my portfolio gets people interested, and then meeting with me kind of seals the deal.
Closing at 89%. I like that you're keeping that as a stat. That's I definitely didn't do that or don't. Let's talk about a few fun things. So what kind of brand are you shooting? What's your goal?
What's my brand?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I think for me, my goal is to always keep things authentic. I don't want to micromanage anyone's wedding day. I want to just tell the story as it unfolds. But I'm also an artist, so I do want to do things maybe a little bit creatively, a little bit differently, not just a point and shoot shot for everything. I kind of want to take a different approach sometimes. So it's a kind of a delicate balance for me with keeping things candid and real and in the moment, and then also putting my own artistic spin on it so that their gallery isn't the same as everyone else's that they've seen. So it's that kind of delicate balance, I think, is what my brand is about.
Yeah. What about brand as far as like your equipment that you use? Are you loyal to a certain brand?
I am now. I started with Canon. I'm still with Canon. I made the switch a few years ago from DSLR to mirrorless. And I got the R, and then I wanted to upgrade from that. So I have the R6 as well. So I shoot with both. And I guess I am loyal. I can't see myself switching at any point now. I'm set.
I actually use the EOS R as well. And I love that camera.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have zero complaints.
Yeah, the RF glass too. Have you gotten into that?
Yeah, I have the 35 for now. My dream lens is the 28 to 70 f2 RF, but pricey.
Yeah, are you thinking that's something you can use and it'll basically cover everything for you?
I think because right now I shoot with both cameras during the day, and I have my 35 on one hip and I have my 70 to 200 on the other. And it kind of gives me a nice balance of everything, get a little wide angle, and then I can do those close-ups without being in anyone's faces. So I feel like if I had the 28 to 70 and then the 70 to 200, that's everything. So
yeah, the 70 to 200, that's like one of my main it blows my mind how sharp it is. Every time I look at photos off it, I'm just like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, I'm sure my biceps on my left arm from holding that thing are much larger than my right hand.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you're using the EF version still, not the RF 70 to 200?
Yeah. I got the EF version, several years back. So I'm still holding on to it. So yeah,
the RF one, it's unimaginably how much lighter it is, how much more the room it saves you in your bag, and it's way sharper. It's crazy. I'm not saying go out and run one, buy one, they're expensive, but
my list of lenses that I want to get is really long, so we'll just add that one to the list. Right?
Yeah, since we're talking lenses, what's your favorite lens to use?
It's a toss-up actually between my 70 to 200 and my 35. And I started using my 24 to 105 again, and I hadn't touched it for a long time. And I'm starting to fall in love with it again. It's so versatile. And especially for things like, I don't do a lot of it, but like family photography, it's a really fun lens to have too. So
cool. Kind of wrapping it up. I've got two last questions for you. The first one, I'm not even sure you can fully answer it, but do you have a story, something that sticks out in your mind, either funny or maybe even horrible, the nightmare story of something that's happened that you had to deal with while you're shooting a wedding?
A lot of my weddings have been fairly low key. I had one wedding where a Lama showed up, so that was fun. And then of course I have stories from just guests that have become a little bit interesting, I guess, as the night goes on. I've had some interesting requests for sure. But nothing that's I don't know, story worthy.
Yeah. Nick, I don't think you asked a question. Do you have any you want to actually throw in there?
No, I'm curious about the 24 to 105 though. Mm-hmm. So that one there, I use it for video a lot just because I can zoom in and out. Is that kind of the same reason you like it for stills, or what's the...
Yeah, especially when it comes to doing the family stuff, is then I can get, because kids move so fast that it makes it easier for me, as opposed to trying to walk in and back out all the time. I can just stand in one place, and because usually they're coming to me or running around or doing whatever. So it's just easier for me to have a zoom in those situations. So probably a similar reason to video.
Yeah, I'd written that lens off too, and then maybe a year or two ago I pulled it out, and I've used it a ton lately. It's weird. Yeah,
and actually, the compression when I'm all the way zoomed out at the 105 is actually, half decent. It's no 70 to 200, but it's still nice. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
So where can people find you, find out more information about you? Actually, do you know what? Before you answer that, why should people actually hire you, and then tell them where they can find you to hire you?
Oh, why should they hire me? I'm educated. I did formal training, so I know how to. On the technical aspect, I know what I'm doing. On the personal side, I think I'm really fun to work with. I'm intentional with my couples. I only take so many a year. I really put all of my love and dedication into those couples. I'm a quality over quantity type of photographer. So I'm not doing mass volume. I'm doing weddings that I want to do with couples that I really want to work with. And I feel like when you have that connection, like personally, the photos just turn out that much better because you have an understanding. So I think that's kind of what sets me apart too, is that I want to build a connection with my couples. So I guess that's why someone would want to hire me, is because they get along with me. They understand me. We understand each other. I get their vision. They get mine. And yeah, it just works. So yeah, if anyone was looking for me, you could find me on Facebook, Instagram. I have a website, www.flauntphoto.com. I'm going to be at the bridal show. I do every bridal show there is in Regina, so I'm usually there. Yeah.
Right
Awesome.
on. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you.
No, thank you.
So now joining us is Lindsey Helland of girlbossphotography.ca. How are you doing tonight, Lindsey?
Oh, not too bad. Yourselves?
We're okay. Bit of a long show going through all this wedding stuff, and you're a part of this industry. How long have you been doing photography? How long have you been working in the wedding industry?
So I've been doing photography for about 7 years now. I've been doing weddings for about 6 years now.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of started off actually right away doing weddings in my career, just through a current wedding experience I had and selling some stuff. And this girl's like, "Hey, do you want to do my wedding photography?" And I'm like, "Okay." So yeah.
That's fine. That's how it always starts, eh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nick and I were cruising your website here that I'm showing up, and There was one thing we found that we thought set you apart right away. Any guess as to what that thing was?
I have no idea.
Basically, we kind of came up with that you're kind of an all service thing. So you got spa services, photography, and a few other things going on when you actually click through everything. So is that sort of maybe how you sell yourself? Is that you're like all encompassing?
Up till last year, I actually went back to school for a skincare technician, and then began doing photography full time. I wasn't full time doing photography before. I always held a full time job, and it was always my weekend evening gig. And then I said, I'm just going to go full time with it. And I went back to school and just had something else on the side. So then I do both services. So when I'm not doing one, I'm doing the other.
Oh, nice. And that keeps you
That's cool.
basically employed full time?
Yeah.
Sweet. Do you find that like doing the skin service thing like helps you get photography or vice versa?
Honestly, yes. I find they both help each other out. The more people that you meet, the more they know about you, and the more the word gets out. A lot of my current clients I call it spa services, are actually my clients from weddings that I have met or people I've photographed, and it all kind of goes across from each other.
That's pretty unique. So basically, it's funny because like when I used to work in the wedding industry, I would always have these clients, right? But then you'd only have them once, and then everybody goes on their merry way. So it's kind of interesting you found a way to like sort of get repeat customers.
And it's a lot about, oh, I know who you are. You photographed this person's wedding. Oh, okay, and it's just kind of like people know me by my name usually, so it kind of sticks with them too.
Bit of a random question here, but I want to throw it at you. If there was anything you could be shooting aside from wedding stuff, what would you be shooting?
Honestly, I would probably go more into the newborn photography aspect of it and continue on with that. Just because I do find that there are only so many newborn photographers, where our industry is really saturated with wedding photographers right now.
You know what? That's so interesting that you went newborn, because when I was going through the portfolio there, I said that was kind of what stood out amongst your photos. I thought, I was like, wow, your newborn stuff's kind of interesting. It's got a nice
I really love doing them, but that's something that I don't do that often.
Oh,
Usually
really?
people message me, it's always weddings, because I just known for weddings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're joining the most incredible bridal show here. What is something you're sort of expecting out of that show?
Honestly, I'm just excited to get my name out, meet some new people. It's, to me, it's always good to have that interaction with new people, and they may not book you, but maybe their friends have heard of you or something like that. And just to see, I haven't been to the bridal show in a while, as you know, COVID. So I'm excited to go and, see what I can do. Spread the word, booking for 2023 more than anything. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really great show with a lot of really good vendors. So
you've done bridal shows before in the past?
I haven't done them. I've attended them for years. I haven't had the nerve to actually do a bridal show before. So I'm really excited for this experience.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Awesome.
So always a bridesmaid, never the bride, as they say. But
Pretty much,
now
yeah.
is your yeah, that's interesting. Your first time doing it. So how does that feel? Like, are the nerves up, or yeah?
I'm actually, the nerves aren't up too much. I'm more excited than anything. I think we're gonna have a really great turnout, and like I said, it's something different to me, and it's something I've never done before. So I like the challenge of something I've never done before.
No, I'm just curious. Are you Canon, Nikon, or Sony?
You know what? I own 2 Canons and a Sony.
Okay.
Yeah, my Sony is a mirrorless. I got it a couple of years ago. It's been a really big learning process for me. I think I'm all about Canon, though. I like having my Sony, but I'm a Canon girl all the way.
Yeah, I had that same experience because I've been Canon for so long, and my Canon is my webcam, but I couldn't even get it working for the show. I don't know. Sony can get a little complicated at times, I've found.
Yeah, it was a really big learning process for me, learning how to do the Sony, just because it's so different than the Canon. When you go to, like, I have 2 70s, and it's different when you go to a 70 and then to a Sony A2. So it's like, oh my goodness, what is this? I don't even know how to run this. But it's been a really, like, both of them have been really great cameras. So.
Do you have a preference, though? You did sort of mention Canon, but would you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Canon's definitely my preference.
Would you be looking to upgrade those?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was planning on doing all the upgrading this next year. So, but I also am waiting to see what happens. It looks like there's a lot going on in the camera industry right now with cameras. So just waiting to see. And I find my mirrorless, the batteries die really fast. So I'm not excited about that.
Yeah. Well, you never know, like, because my video camera, when did the C200, it was 2017. And my stills camera, my stills camera came out like 10 years ago. It's got nice lenses and stuff, but yeah, it's weird. Emery's got a brand new, came out yesterday camera, but
well, that's getting ancient. So I have the EOS R is what I use, and it's
nice.
I love the camera. I don't regret making that change over at all. But yeah, like, even mine's a dinosaur. Like, they're not going to make this camera again. The EOS R.
Oh, really?
Dead. Yeah. Speaking of gear, so you're shooting all this stuff. What is your favorite lens to use?
My favorite lens, I have a Sigma Art, and that lens I absolutely love. I use that lens for everything, and also just my little 50 millimeter. My Canon there, 50 mil. I love that one too, the 1.8. It's great.
If there's another, like, piece of gear in your bag that, just sort of helps you out with everything, what is it?
You know what? I always bring 3 cameras with me. every time I go. I'm always that person that's afraid something's going to happen to one of them and it's going to something it's bad. So I always have that extra camera with me. And also I change my memory cards. Like, once you're done a wedding ceremony, that card gets changed. Once you're done reception, that card gets changed halfway through. I'm just so afraid of memory cards that I switch out all the time. And that's my savior during the day.
What you sound like you've done some learning on the spot too. Do you have a good story of like something that you've maybe messed up and learned on?
Not there's been a few times where I've had trouble with like one of my cameras, something's not right or a certain lens wasn't right. But I've always had that kind of backup camera with me. So if I did figure I was having troubles at any point, I always had that to turn to or switch. And then usually, even if it's just sitting in my bag, I'm perfectly happy with that because I know it's always there if I need to switch out. Yeah,
that's one thing we sort of talked about before is like that's what you're buying a lot of the times is people who know or are prepared for those situations. So what's your favorite part about the wedding industry?
My favorite part is how much of a challenge it is. People think that you can just go into a wedding, photograph it, and it's easy peasy. But every wedding has a different story that goes with it, or something happens during the day. No wedding is ever the same. I love the challenge of not knowing how the day is going to go. Usually, if there is a wedding planner involved, it's a lot easier. But for those weddings that don't have those, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to run late. You don't know if somebody's going to show up. You don't know if your timeline's going to get all messed up. Or else there's that certain person who's going to be right behind you the whole day. I don't know. I just love the challenge of it.
Or if Emery's at the wedding, if somebody's going to be passed out on the table.
Yeah. I just find there's a certain challenge with every wedding, and I love looking forward to that. A lot of people won't do weddings due to the stress, but I like that stress of the wedding.
Yeah, for sure. So if you are going to give someone your sales pitch, what is your sales pitch? And then finish it with where they can actually find you to, close that deal.
For my sales pitch, I was married once before, and I had a hard time paying for a photographer. I cannot afford a photographer. We can afford to get one. And eventually I actually bought a camera and started photographing my own stuff. So I totally understand the pricing of photographers and how expensive they can be these days. I really try and work with my couples to get to a point that they can afford and be budget friendly with them. At the end of the day isn't about me, it's about them. And I want to make sure that they get the day that they want. And that's the most important thing to me. I do have a website that is www.girlbossphotography.ca. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook.
And at the most incredible bridal show. So
thanks. The most incredible bridal show.
Thanks for coming on with us, Lindsey.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a great night.
Yeah. Thank you. Emery, did I ever tell you about my sister's wedding?
No.
And as the photographer there.
Oh boy.
Are you still recording?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So so I got my sister was like, oh yeah, can you bring a camera and film, just take a bunch of photos at her wedding? I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I brought my camera. It was in the Dominican Republic. So we were outside, so it was like easy lighting and everything, and I'm taking all these pictures. And then I spotted this guy. We were out at the beach just taking like couple pictures. And I spotted this guy. He must have been 78, 82, between 78 and 82 years old on the beach, just a Speedo, like a thong type Speedo. And so what I did was I brought him over and I positioned the guy perfectly behind him. So they were holding hands. And the guy's bum was like right above their heads in the background, but they had no idea. So they didn't see this till they got the pictures back. They were just like, oh, are you serious?
That's funny. At least it sounds like you didn't let them down though. at least.
I don't know. I can't remember. It was a while ago. They were probably whatever, but that one picture was gold. I wish I had it here with me.
Yeah. That's maybe a good question. Like, why is it important to hire an experienced wedding photographer? Because that's the thing I recommend to people all the time. To people, I get asked all the time, and I'm like, no, talk to someone who's done it a lot.
Yeah, like you could get back into it, but it would take a bit to really get moving again with it.
Yeah. Well, and especially too, like trying to keep up with some of the trends and what needs to be done.
Just some of the poses now would be tricky. There's a few really higher end poses and stuff.
Yeah, here's the other thing too. If I did it again, I would go back into videography and like just the hustle that is needed for that. Do you know what I should have asked her as well is about like the cost of it? Like because when I was doing videos, like I couldn't charge as much as photographers, but I was doing twice the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think it's still similar today because my friend Sammy, who did video and photos for weddings, he's gone just a photo though, because the time to money ratio is just so whacked out with video.
Yeah,
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's definitely more difficult. So hopefully that is a trend that is changing.
I don't know how, like, in somebody's mind, they're going to do that. They're going to want it the same price. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're going to want to spend $3,000 on one and $3,000 on the other. That's still $6,000 out of what, a $25,000 budget,
which is expensive, right?
Yeah. And realistically, like, I don't know if I'd want to do a wedding for under 10. Like, even that, I probably would say no. So
that's funny you say that, because I think if I was shooting weddings again, I would want like, probably $5,000-6,000.
Yeah. Because think of all the editing. Like, you're not just editing it like you're editing a video. It's got
to.
Now you do get my friend Sammy who shot it, he got so good at it that like when I'd go out there and film, he'd like get mad at you if you shot extra. Like, you had to shoot just what he asked you to shoot. Nothing more. Or else you're just wasting time and editing stuff. But he was great. Like, he knows what he's doing with it, and he'd script out the little story ahead of time. Their little, like, the love story kind of thing. But I think he's just too beyond that stuff now, so I don't know if he really does the wedding videos anymore.
Yeah, cool. Well, Nick, I think that probably wraps up our wedding show for this year. Maybe for just 2 camera guys, who knows? We'll see if we do this again sometime.
I just insulted every wedding videographer out there by saying that all my friends are beyond. Oh, no.
But again, that goes back to that concept of that it's a good industry to start in. You learn the ropes there, right?
Yeah. But yeah, the income side is so bizarre because I just don't think you could pay me enough now. It's just such a hard, like, I've got a ton of respect for whoever's editing all these wedding videos. I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah. But again, you got to make your start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'd be willing to bet all those guys or whoever you're talking about is beyond. They all cut their teeth through doing stuff like this, right?
Yeah. Well, you remember Jeremy, who we shot. He started doing wedding videos.
Yeah. So there you have it. Like I said, I think that's a good way to wrap up the show. So yeah, thanks for joining us on our wedding, the most incredible bridal event extravaganza, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming along for the ride with us, everybody. Have a good night.
Night.
Nick Lamb.
Whoa.
Look at that.
Yeah. It's just a big mess. My battery died in the camera.
Is joining us tonight. Hello, Angela. That was terrible. Should I redo it all?
Nah, we're good. Cool.
So we're going to do everybody separate and then cut it all together.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, so it should be fun.
I knew that too.
And then
honestly, I like the new system where I just jump in with funny bits every once in a while.
Of course you do.
It works great.
How long did you shoot wedding stuff for? We can't hear you, Nick. Wait, you had
I
one
had the
job,
best
Nick.
joke. I said till they fired me or till I quit.
Angela texts me. She goes, "Oh, did you do your meeting yet?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got 20 minutes."
That's perfect. You know what? Nick comes into these cold all the time too. So.
That's my thing.
Yeah, that's.
You took my thing. Because I think that a lot of times they want to get it turned around pretty fast for their clients. They at least have something to put. Because now a lot of people would want to put something on Facebook like the next day, right?
We should have asked them if there was like wedding people they followed. I can't tell you why a landscape or a person who considers himself more of a landscape photographer would still be, watching YouTube videos on wedding. Yeah. I guess I think it goes to show like you just don't know what you're gonna get from where or what's gonna inspire you. Do you follow and watch anything in the wedding industry?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Lots.
Oh, you wanted your fancy lights for your podcast.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Mine works good. Mine's always got a finger in front of it though, but hopefully the 14 Pro fixes that.
Mine's just always greasy or something.
Yeah.
Mine-
We should do that's a short where we're blaming our camera.
Why is it
Yours?
greasy
'Cause
all the
it's
time?
so
and you're
greasy.
eating potato chips.
If I was doing photography as my legit thing, I would be subbing out a lot of my base edits at least. And then,
Even that's expensive though.
I don't know, you sub them out.
To who though? And what are they going to
I
charge?
don't know yet.
you? Like,
I haven't done this yet.
It's pipe dream.
Imagining. Yes.